Welcome to Stochastic MLB Live Before Lock. I'm your host, Neil Orfield. You can find me on Twitter at PlayerQDFS. I'm here with Matt Belman. You can find him on Twitter at Fantasy Tips Matt. The show is produced by Jordan Klein. You can find him on Twitter at Jordan D. Klein. And this show is sponsored by Owner's Box, new way to play fantasy sports. Really fun new product out there. We'll talk about Owner's Box a little bit more later on. While you're coming in, like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Hit that notification button so you can get alerts when our shows go live. Matt, looked like you had a pretty nice weekend.
Yeah, crazy sweat on Sunday night. Just like wild, just in terms of how it played out.
What was it? Was it actually the kneel downs that you won on?
Yeah, it was actually the kneel down. So I talked about it last night, but I haven't seen you and talked about it really. So it was a tie. Me and McLovin tied in a contest on the Thursday night showdown slate. For a ticket to the Fantasy Football World Championship. So there was a tiebreaker, and it was Sunday night. For the Sunday night game. I thought we were going to have very similar lineups. We ended up not really having that similar of lineups. He used Carlson at kicker. I used Carlson, but not in my captain. Excuse me. Okay. He used Carlson at captain. Yeah. I used Jacobs at captain. He also used Jacobs, but not at captain. And we both had Devontae Adams, obviously.
Yeah.
He used both quarterbacks, and he used Austin Hooper. I used Pittsburgh's kicker, Jalen Warren, and Jacoby Myers. No quarterbacks for me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I actually was watching your show in the background, and you were talking about how no quarterback build was viable. I'd already built at that point, and I thought it was just very viable given that neither quarterback had rushing upside. So either way, it's tight, like basically the whole night. I'm winning for most of it, but when Garoppolo throws the second touchdown to Adams, it's like really, really close. Then McDaniels decides to go for the field goal, and
my God.
I was losing by a little bit under a point after the field goal. Just awful. I'm like, I don't think Warren's going to play because Najee Harris is like their lead back. I mean, maybe Warren gets a snap or two. Warren ends up getting the snap on third down, loses 3 yards. So now I'm down over a point. And I'm thinking to myself, man, even if Garoppolo throws a pick now, I'm screwed. I hope I just lose by over a point. Raiders get the ball back somehow with like time left. Obviously, he throws the pick, and I'm like pissed at first because I don't think about the kneel down. And then I realized like I'm literally losing by under a point. If he kneels, like I'll win. And it happened and it updated. And like I was telling Jordan before the show, my wife, who still we've been together forever, but she's just not a sports person. She just doesn't really get it. She was watching the contest live and freaked when I won just because of how it happened. It was like the greatest DFS sweat I can ever remember. And I was really, really pissed before it happened on how I was about to lose, but just shows you like anything can happen. Very grateful.
And for anybody who doesn't know what we're talking about, so we're talking about a ticket for the NFL final, which is worth like $70,000. And it's essentially all or nothing, right? Like, it's like, if you don't win, you get what do you win? Like $500, like something really minimal. So it's like, basically you're either winning $70,000 or you're winning $500. And you, to win that on a kneel down is, I mean, it's just typical of Showdown. That is such an awesome story.
It's crazy. I can't believe like that. You see that happen out there. And I'm like, that shit'll never happen to me like that. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it just did. Like, I was really, really shocked. Couldn't sleep that much. Like, I was telling them last night, oftentimes I don't even stay up and watch the games and sweat it out. You know, we've been doing this for so long. You can't like do that every night or you'll kill yourself. But this was a situation like, it was like extra special, if you will. Like, it was for a seat to the final. I wanted to get it. So I watched the game and it was tilting. It was a true sweat.
And it sounds like you don't sweat with your wife all that often. It's kind of a rare thing.
I mean, no, I very rarely do. She was even upstairs, like still watching on her phone. So we had moved on from watching together. She couldn't handle me anymore. Like once halftime started. So she was like, I'm going up.
Yeah, that's an awesome story. Jimmy Jam says, took down the $15 DK GPP 50K up top on Friday night, had spots 1 through 7. That's awesome to hear, Jimmy Jam. Was not aware that we had a winner in chat for the Friday main slate. That's really cool to hear. Congrats to Jimmy Jam as well. All right. So anything else exciting for you in NFL this weekend or?
Well, I wanted to ask you how your NFL weekend went. Before I do, I only made one big lineup because I had stuff to do on Sunday morning. It didn't matter if you didn't have the Miami guys. I used Cleveland. I used Watson and Cooper. They were pretty good. Did you see the play, though, where Cooper, and I was asking Josh about this yesterday, where like he was clearly in bounds and they called him out of bounds. and they
I don't think
couldn't
I did.
review
I
it.
think I saw a lot of people talking about it on Twitter and then never
Okay.
actually saw it myself. So
Basically, they called him out of bounds.
Yeah.
He had never gone out of bounds. And just how can that happen? That was very frustrating. I knew when that happened, that was going to be a rough day for me.
Yeah.
How about you?
It was a rough day for me, man. Both from a like playing standpoint and from an analysis standpoint. It was like any take that I had all week last week. And I do a lot of content. I felt like every contrarian take I had was just didn't work out at all. Like, I wasn't wrong, whatever. I liked Tank Dell. I liked Tyreek Hill. There were a lot of things that I liked that went well, but like it was all the chalk pieces that did well. And any place that I like went different from the field. Like I love Justin Fields, and like, man, that went horribly. And it felt like every single piece that I was like at all contrarian went completely wrong. So that was pretty brutal weekend for me, because honestly, it's nice, if you get the chalk pieces right, but you really need to hit on the contrarian pieces to win money in DFS. So yeah, did not work out for me at all.
My big problem was I got the big chalk piece wrong. I played Kelly and he was awful.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that didn't help either. I mean, yeah, I liked Kelly. I liked Alexander Madison, who I guess was okay, but like could have scored a touchdown pretty easily. I liked TJ Hawkinson, who of course should have scored a touchdown on like that final play. Instead, drops it and they intercept it instead. Just that whole game was just it was rough.
I will say, I don't know how it happened, but I played one lineup last night and ended up having a good night. Finished like top 5 in the single entry GPPs. I only played one player from the first game. I only played AJ Brown and I played the Phillies D, or the Eagles D, excuse me. Ended up like Hurts was the best QB. It was a really weird slate. Like I couldn't believe it once it ended and I checked. I guess it was really because I had Chase, Brown, and Tutu. So like those were like the 3 wideouts you needed. I mean, except it was just a weird slate.
Yeah, it was weird. I felt so good early on. I said it on live before. So I didn't do the 2 game. I did the analysis for only the second showdown slate.
Right.
And one of my biggest stands was Olamide Zaccheaus. I played a ton of Olamide Zaccheaus. So he scores the first touchdown and I'm like, oh man, this is my night. And I ended up losing like, I don't know, 60% of the money I put in. So did not end up working out for me. I guess I didn't have, I don't even know what went wrong. I had 45% Mike Williams. I had 40% DeAndre Swift, I think. Just nothing came together for me.
It's funny. I actually really prefer those, like, I would say 2 to 5 game football slates. The main slates are so fun. Don't get me wrong. There's only 17 or whatever of them per year, but you can't really like get that weird because like, there's, you know what I mean? Like, and the showdowns, it's too weird. Like you're going for too many of the same players. I like that medium ground, like the Thanksgiving slate where ownership is still concentrated. You can get really different by playing guys that you normally wouldn't play. Like on main slates, you just can't really do that.
Yeah, no, it's a very, very different kind of game. I see Barnaby O'Toole asking, is this the baseball show? All right, fine. Okay. Well, we'll talk some baseball. First, I do want to say shout out to our guy. Yeah, I mean, you go too long. Shout out to our guy, Chris Williams, gifting out some more YouTube memberships. Always appreciate you, Chris. All right. You ready to talk some pitchers?
Yeah, let's get it.
All right. So at the high end, we have I'd say 4 kind of, there's kind of a break in the pricing. We have Kevin Gausman at the top, 11,500, Zach Eflin, 10,300, Justin Steele, 9,900, and George Kirby, 9,700 are our top 4 most expensive pitchers. So let's just break it down by the pricing tier. Do you like any of these guys? Are you going to be playing? I mean, 3 of these 4 not getting really any ownership. George Kirby getting 6%, Justin Steele sub 1%, Zach Eflin sub 2%, Kevin Gausman really the only chalk pitcher of those 4. So it's, I'm grouping them together by price, but they all look very different in the tools. Are you going to be jamming any of these guys? Do you like any of the contrarian guys? How do you feel about this top tier?
I think Gausman is like the clear top pitcher on the slate, priced accordingly. Our top pitcher tool says the same thing. No Aaron Judge in the Yankees lineup. He's the best pitcher on the slate. And there's murky options everywhere. Like he's the only ace, like clearly just the top pitcher talent wise.
Yeah,
it makes sense why he's the highest owned. If I were only making one lineup, he'd be in it. I actually do like Zach Eflin a lot though as a contrarian option, either with Gausman or if you want to take the risk and play him instead if you're going with a chalky offense. It's more just the tools. Like after Gausman, there's a bunch of these guys that are jammed together. Gausman is getting Eflin is getting no love.
Right.
And it's a risky spot against Boston, but I still feel more comfortable with him than I do Steele, like in Atlanta. No thanks to that. So it's Eflin for me there. Kirby, you can make a similar argument for, but I prefer facing Boston as opposed to Houston. They're basically the same in top pitcher tool. Eflin's a little bit higher, and Kirby's getting 5.5 times the ownership. So give me Eflin there. Obviously, I like Gaussman a lot. Can't get to steal. I could see why someone would like Kirby. He's just not me. And I like, being contrarian, knowing there's risk for sure. Tough ballpark, good lineup in Boston, but our tools get me on Eflin.
Yeah, Eflin, I mean, coming in really underowned in our tools, 1.5% projected ownership, 12.2% chance of being a top 2 pitcher, and also even a 2.7% chance of being a top 2 value pitcher. So even point per dollar, Zach Eflin looks really good in the tools. I imagine I'll be playing some Eflin. Do you think so? Are you maxing it out tonight, or are you just playing a few lineups?
I'm just playing a few lineups. I'm playing 6 lineups, I think. So
in your 6 lineups, do you think you will have 50% or more of Kevin Gaussman?
Yes.
Okay. So you're okay with eating the chalk there. We have a little bit of negative leverage there, but not enough that it's going to scare you off him. I mean, we talk about all the time, like we're more willing to eat the chalk at pitcher. Sounds like this is one of those cases where, yeah, you're just going to eat the chalk there in the high end there.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Let's move on down the pricing range. So now let's bring it down to 8,000. So Christian Javier is 8,000. We've got Kyle Harrison at 8,200, Seth Lugo 8,400, Braxton Garrett 8,600, Bobby Miller 8,900, and Bailey Ober 9,100. Of this grouping, is there anybody who is a priority for you? Anybody who looks like a major fade? How are you feeling about it?
I don't really love this group, to be quite honest. I mean, the pitching breaks down for me, like in cash games specifically, it's Gaussman and then King. You could maybe play Ober in there instead, so I'll talk about Ober. Our tools like him. He's coming in, the second highest pitcher in our tools. The ownership is there. He's clearly got negative leverage. I don't really see it with Ober. Like the tools say that he's a good play, but the ownership's there, whereas the tools say Eflin's a good play and the ownership's not there. So give me Eflin. Like Ober's in a good spot. I get it against Oakland, but Oakland, huge ballpark upgrade. It's not like Ober's been impervious to getting hit like at all. Like he's okay. They sent him to the minors for a while. He's getting ownership just because of the matchup. Like I don't really like Ober here. The tools could get me on him. If I were playing like 150, I wouldn't completely fade him. Sure. But I personally don't really see the upside in playing him. And then everyone else in this group, like there's some guys that I think look okay. Braxton Garrett looks decent. The weather I don't think is a concern there, even though they did announce a delay. The Mets have obviously underperformed all year. Still not like the greatest spot. So I like Garrett, don't love. Same with Lugo. Like he's fine. I have nothing bad to say about him, but I don't think that like they stand out. They are coming in underowned. So I actually prefer these guys to Ober in tournaments. And I don't think there's like one to pick out. I think it's all of them. Javier, Lugo, Garrett. Like in tournaments, I prefer all of them to Ober.
Yeah, Ober just looking a little bit overowned, and you get it why people are playing him because of that matchup with Oakland in, I guess it's in Minnesota, but matchup with Oakland regardless. 30% ownership getting there makes some sense. But yeah, I think it also makes sense to just do what you're doing and maybe potentially, or what you're kind of suggesting is maybe spread it out to the other guys, don't eat the ownership and just hope that one of these other guys can go off instead of Ober, which seems pretty likely. Like as we said, we've got negative leverage there on Ober, 30% projected ownership, 17% chance of being a top 2 pitcher. So it doesn't look like
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying it doesn't look like the best play in the tools. What were you going to add?
That honestly, like I know we're not there yet, but King is the guy. Like he is going to be, I've heard him talked about everywhere. He's way too cheap. Like he's the chalk. Like him and Gaussman, Ober will get love. You have to roster 2 pitchers, but I would be shocked if like the most popular lineup pairing by far isn't Gaussman King.
Yeah, I would guess that is going to be the case. Yeah, I have not been following. So again, I haven't really been playing that much MLB DFS except for Tuesdays when I do content on it. I'm just so focused on NFL once NFL season starts. But I'm playing today, and all of a sudden everybody's talking about this guy Michael King, and I'm like, yeah, I don't even remember this guy being relevant prior to this, and suddenly all of Twitter is talking about Michael King. So I do want to talk about that. First, I do want to shout out Fantasy Guru 76. Gave out 5 memberships to YouTube for YouTube members. So appreciate you, Fantasy Guru 76. And then, of course, our Apple guy, Chris Williams, responds and gifts out another 5 memberships to YouTube for people. So appreciate you guys.
Competition.
Yeah, we got an old fashioned. Who said this? We have an old fashioned gift off here going on. Appreciate you guys. That's awesome. And then what was his bet that Jake Swales brought up? Because I wanted to read it because that is absolutely insane. He said somebody bet like 25,000. Okay, where I'm missing it now. I can't find it anymore. Jake was pointing out, and I had not seen the bet before Jake brought it up, but somebody bet like 25,000, 24,000. Did y'all see the bet? Dude bet 24,000 to win $900 on there being no safeties in Monday night's games. Yeah, that is not the kind of bet that you should be making. That is rough. If you're going to be like, if the best case scenario is you make a fraction of what you put in, typically that's going to be a bad bet. So yeah,
it's like a money laundering type of bet.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah. So I guess sorry to that guy, but also you kind of had it coming. Like you shouldn't be making that kind of bet with $24,000, but hopefully he has the money where it's not hurting him that bad. All right, let's open it up and talk about the cheaper guys. So we've talked to everybody, Christian Javier and up already on DraftKings. We'll do FanDuel as well after we touch on the cheap tier, just see if there's any major differences on FanDuel. But you already talked about the number one guy we need to talk about is Michael King. So sounds like you are in on Michael King. I'm looking at our tools. I'm seeing 32.5% projected ownership, 13% chance of being a top two pitcher, 28% chance of being a top two value pitcher though. So like he looks like he's a little bit negative leverage if you look at the top point per dollar pitcher, but like actually not that bad. So what are you doing, Michael King? Are you just going to be jamming him? Are you matching the field? What's your plan here?
Maybe I came off a little wrong. I'm definitely not like jamming him in. I'm playing a little bit of King. I'm underweight on King, very overweight on Toronto. So gotcha. It doesn't take much to be overweight on Toronto, especially like in, the 888, which I'm playing tonight. It's just, they're not going to be highly owned. And King in a tournament like that is going to be like my prediction, 60% at 6K on this slate.
Really?
Yeah. I'll tell you after the slate locks.
Well, like in what field are you talking about?
It's the 375 person 888.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So that would make sense if more people play him there because you're just going more towards just that safety and they feel safer with him.
I mean, and also like, even though I like the Toronto side and I don't trust King, I completely get why he's getting the ownership. Like this slate does not have any good pitching options really besides Gausman and then King. Given the way he's pitched, Toronto is a tough spot. That's why I like their bats, but he's been really good. He was good out of the bullpen. He's been good recently. Like he is way too cheap. He's clearly like the best value pitcher on the slate. You asked me though a lot. You asked me about Gausman if I'm willing to eat pitcher chalk. With guys like Gausman, I am like, right. And any slate that Gausman versus the Yankees was on here, he'd be one of the top options. King is a top option today because of his price and the other options. So those guys I'm very wary of, knowing full well that like he looks like a good option on paper. The ownership's just really already there. And I'd rather like take a risk with, other guys, even though I might not feel comfortable with it.
I mean, it's also because you look at his last 5 starts and he had 37 fantasy points in his most recent start.
In the same matchup.
In the same matchup with Toronto. The start before that 20, the start before that 24, and then 18 and 17, which is, not ideal, but like that's probably fine at 6,000. So like easily. You look at his last 5 starts, they all look really good. What happened here? He came out of nowhere. Like if you look all of his starts prior to that, he was not doing that much. I guess did he just become a starter? Yeah. But like his fantasy, like he was putting up like negative fantasy points in some of these. Okay. And just, I mean, did we anticipate him to take this big leap once he became a starter? Are you there?
Is it me who's frozen?
I can hear you now. But your screen is frozen. I'm looking at a blank stare on your face, but I can hear you. Can you hear me now? All right. I think Belman might not be here anymore. I could hear him for a second. He is completely frozen for me though. So I guess I will go on and continue looking up Michael King. Seems like he came out of nowhere. Maybe people anticipated once he became a starter, he was going to become that dude. He did have, he had before he became a starter against Atlanta in just under 4 innings, 13 fantasy points. So that's really strong. I guess just 3 strikeouts in that one. But he's had some games with 3 to 5 strikeouts in like 2 innings. So I guess you could see that the strikeout stuff was there. Doesn't always translate, though, to a starter. It appears to have for Michael King. So I guess the ownership makes some sense there on Michael King. I have not decided yet what I'm going to do with King. If the ownership, I'm only playing the $3. So I'm playing pretty low stakes here, a little bit different than Matt. But I imagine I'm going to come
Dodgers lineup just came out.
Oh, you're back.
Yeah, sorry, I thought you saw me back. Sorry, I didn't mean to scare you. I don't know what happened. It froze on me, so I just left the Zoom and then came back in.
No, I was trying to fill in for you. I was like, okay, Belman might not be here the rest of the show. I'm going to be just looking at the tools for the rest of the show. So, all right, I'm glad to hear you're back. Yeah, I see that the Dodgers lineup is out. But let's finish talking about pitchers. So King, I'm thinking I'm probably going to be not too far off the field, to be honest. The field coming in at just over 30%. I'm going to be somewhere most likely between 30 and 40% for Michael King is where I anticipate landing there in my small stake stuff. But it sounds like you're going to be underweight to the field in your 6 lineups, but it's also a little bit different in high stakes where he's probably going to get jammed by a lot of the field. But interesting play out there. Like I don't know, we've seen too many guys like this who come out of the bullpen and are suddenly just incredible. What was he expected to be incredible once he started like getting more innings?
I don't think so. I think this is kind of a out of nowhere type of thing. Maybe not out of nowhere. Like he was pitching really well out of the bullpen. I don't think this was expected, and I don't think like this is necessarily expected to continue. I've heard from a couple places that this is like another audition for him to stay in the rotation for next season. Not sure why he would need like any more auditions after how he's pitched, but clearly like the Yankees aren't even completely sold yet. So, I feel like the regression monster's coming for him just because that's how baseball works. But, maybe he keeps it going and his price tag certainly doesn't, show how he's pitched, at least recently.
Yeah, I mean, I guess he's had a strikeout rate north of 30%. He had this year as well as last year in 51 innings, but like that's totally different when you are a relief pitcher. Like you're going to see a dip in that strikeout rate as a starter. Looks like he's maintaining it pretty well. We'll see if he can continue to maintain the high strikeout rate. But yeah, it feels like a good place if the field's going to be on it to maybe not go all in on that because and I think you already alluded to maybe playing some bats against him. That makes a ton of sense to me. We'll talk about that though a little bit more once we get to bats. But let's finish out with the rest of the pitchers on the cheap end. Are there any other guys that you think are really intriguing below 8,000 here?
Intriguing, no, but like guys I don't hate. Reed Detmers, tough spot, but we've seen him have strikeout upside even in tough spots. Tanner Houck's getting some love. Watered down version of the Rays. They've lost a couple guys. Noah Rosarena, Brandon Lau's out for the year. So I get the Tanner Houck love. I'd rather use some Tampa bats. So they're really cheap and like they're not bad. So I'm more on the Tampa side than Houck, but I get it at that price. And then one guy, I'm just going to throw this out there. I don't feel good about it at all, but it's the White Sox. Zach Davies, all he needs to do is outscore King here, which I know in a lot of scenarios won't happen because of King's strikeout upside. But if King gets hit around here by the Blue Jays and Davies just pitches a clean game, not inconceivable. It's more about the matchup. The White Sox stink. Anyone can pitch well against them. So yeah, not any more of a recommendation than just the matchup. But King looks like the clear top optimal option in this range on the slate at any range.
Yeah, he looks pretty clearly. Who was the second one you just mentioned against the White Sox?
Davies.
Zach Davies. Okay. Yeah. And we've got him. Yeah. He looks pretty good in the tools. 6% projected ownership, 20% chance of being a top 2 value pitcher, point per dollar pitcher. So that's looks kind of interesting in the tools. What about Paul Blackburn? He's the guy that I know last year, in some conversation with Josh, he sounds like Paul Blackburn may have taken at least a step forward a little bit better this year than he has been in the past, facing Minnesota, who, they do strike out a good amount. Do you have any interest in Paul Blackburn here?
Nah, I mean, maybe if this game was at home, but ballpark downgrade. He's fine in the tools. There's no difference between him and he's better than Zach Davies. If he were Zach Davies' price, I'd play him over Davies, but he's a little bit more expensive. I'd just rather spend all the way down. The one guy that's interesting to me, and that's about all it is, though, he's not even in our tools or anywhere, is this Jake Latz for Texas. DK has him projected as the long relief guy. I've tried to look into it a bunch of times today. I haven't seen much. He is up with the team. He's 4K against the Angels. Like if he pitches 3 innings, he could be viable here, especially on a slate without good options. I'd rather play Davies, even though definitely a higher chance of Davies getting in the negative here than him. So maybe I want him even if he doesn't pitch, but I think it's just intriguing on a slate without good options. He's 4K.
Yeah, for sure. That's an interesting option. All right. Humboldt asks, can you read off the Dodgers lineup? I'm driving and listening. Multiple people responding that they'd like to, but they can't. I can, so I'll do it for you, Humboldt. So we're leading off with Taylor, Freeman in the 2-hole, Smith in the 3-hole, Muncy in the 4-hole, Outman, E. Hernandez. Who is E. Hernandez?
EK Hernandez. His real name's Enrique.
Oh, Enrique Hernandez. Okay, yeah. David Peralta, Wong, and Rosario. So that's our Mets lineup. Taylor, Freeman, Smith, Muncy, Outman, Hernandez, Peralta, Wong, and Rosario is your Dodgers lineup for this one. Kind of interesting. We'll talk about the Dodgers when we talk about some bats, though. Any other pitchers that you want to touch on here, Belman?
No, I think we basically got through them all.
All right, let's touch on FanDuel really quickly, just because the pricing dynamics are a little bit different. We have Michael King at 8,600 on FanDuel, for example. So very different there. Are you playing on FanDuel at all tonight?
I am not.
Okay, so you maybe haven't prepared as much for the FanDuel conversation, but we can take a look at the top pitchers tool to see if there are any major differences for us. Let's start there though with Michael King. So he's 8,600 on FanDuel. That's a far cry from 6,000 on DraftKings. We have him at 2% ownership though on FanDuel with a 6% chance of being the top pitcher. Does he become more interesting to you on FanDuel than on DraftKings, or are you out on him at that price tag?
Both. He's more interesting to me at that price tag in tournaments because he's not getting the ownership, but
yeah,
I don't think he should be getting the ownership. It is similar to Eflin, like on the DK slate. But I'm not even sure how long his leash is. I'd probably rather get up. Well, I definitely would rather get up to Gausman. That said, even though he is priced up here, he is significantly cheaper than the top guys. So yeah, to answer your question, I would be more interested in King here.
Yeah, you started by saying not as interested, and then you fully came around, and I was kind of thinking the same thing. He's had a strikeout rate north of 30%, and we don't expect him to hold it, but where he's getting 2% ownership, that's actually more interesting to me in some ways. So I think that
he's priced right on FanDuel. Yeah, he's just way too cheap on DK. You look at the pricing on FanDuel, especially today, guys are kind of priced up. Without he's pitched, you could make an argument he's too cheap on FanDuel. It just doesn't look that way because of DraftKings.
Yeah, exactly. Anybody else standing out to you looking at FanDuel? I mean, we've got Gausman at 11,100. I assume that he's going to be your top ace again.
Yeah, easily. I mean, if you have the money to get the Gausman, just do it. The idea of getting an Eflin or King is interesting, but especially on FanDuel, when a guy like Gausman, I would play FanDuel tonight just so I could play Gausman and not have to worry about an SV2. That's why I would play FanDuel. So I'm definitely playing Gausman if I were playing FanDuel.
All right. So Gausman, the guy on FanDuel. And I will say, I think that 2% owned King, if looking at his last game, to me, that's at least a little bit intriguing with 6% chance of being the top pitcher.
Definitely.
Anything else you want to say about these pitchers on FanDuel?
No, it looks pretty similar. I think King is the talking point.
All right. Well, I kind of want to see what our lineup generator is going to give us. So, Jordan, if you don't mind getting the lineup generator set up. In the meantime, while you're getting that set up, I do want to tell you guys about our sponsor, Owner's Box, because we've got a fantastic deal going on Owner's Box right now. If you use the link in the description of this video or in chat. I realize I asked you to set up one thing and I'm doing the other read instead, Jordan. We're going to do both because I just want to look at see if we're getting to a ton of Michael King in the lineup generator right now. But Owner's Box, you sign up using the link in the description. You're going to get a free week of the Stochastic Sims Max package, which is a fantastic deal. That's a $60 value that you're getting up just for signing up using our link. You have to make a deposit of at least $10. On top of that, you get a couple $5 tickets, one of those being for a Lightning lineup. It's a really fun way to play essentially a cash game with the Lightning lineups. And then you also get another $5 entry into whatever other contest you want to play in. On top of that, you get a deposit match bonus up to $500. So if you deposit $500, you're going to get $500. It's going to come over time. So you're not going to, whatever you deposit, you're not going to just have that money to play with right away. You have to earn that by playing through the money you put in. But over time, whatever amount you put in, you're going to get that back in bonus bucks as you play. They call them owners bucks there. So fantastic deal. The link is in the description. It is in chat as well. It's a new way to play DFS. It's similar to, DraftKings FanDuel. It's a DFS site where you can play. It's if you play NFL, it's also super flex. So if you don't like playing defenses, you want to play a couple quarterbacks, it's kind of a unique new way to play DFS. If you want to check out the NFL product, I think it's really fun having the super flex option, so you can do multiple stacks in the same lineup, maybe even fully game stack with both quarterbacks in a game. Really unique, different in that way from FanDuel and DraftKings. But check it out if you haven't done so. Use the link in the description of this video or in chat. But I want to look at these lineups, Jordan. So thank you for pulling that up for us. Let's do DraftKings main to start. Let's do all stack types and let's do all lineup types. I want to see how much king we get across different types of lineups. All right. So Jordan's just going to go and save some lineups for us. Let's see if we get to I wouldn't be shocked if we get 100% king. I also wouldn't be shocked if we come in underweight to the field. This will be interesting. All right, so he's not our highest owned player. So we actually, all right, so this is going to have to update because I think we have some Dodgers in here that are not in the lineup. We've got, I don't think Betts was in the lineup. I guess he's the only one that I see immediately popping out that I know is not in the lineup. So that's unfortunately we're going to have to redo this after we get the lineups out. But getting to a ton of Dodgers in here, and King is our highest owned pitcher. We get 49% King in the lineups that Jordan just went through, and then just a ton of Dodgers bats at the top. That surprises me a little bit, that we're getting so much of the Dodgers across different types of lineups with both chalky and contrarian lineups. But the King ownership is well within the range. I thought there was a chance we'd get to 100% here. I'm actually glad to see that we're not, that we are pretty spread out in that sense. But this is a lot of Dodgers. Belman, are you surprised to see that we're getting to a ton of Dodgers here, or is that kind of what you would expect from the lineup generator?
It would definitely be what I expect. I mean,
Okay.
The Dodgers look elite here. They look like by far the best offense on the board. Their lineup is a little bit watered down, but it just means it's cheaper.
Yep.
So easy to fit. That's also a reason why I'm getting to Eflin with Gaussman. You can do Dodger stacks. I love stacking the bottom half of the Dodgers lineups in spots like this. They're really cheap. So is the top half. The bottom half's not going to get, they'll be less than half his own. They're in the same spot. Obviously, it's likely that they might get, an at bat less than the other guys, but also it's not a sure thing that they do. And, while you normally take the guy that gets one at bat more, the ownership's there. So I just think there's strong leverage in going to guys at the bottom of the lineup. They're really cheap. The Dodgers look like by far the best team on the slate. I love Arizona against Urania. I think Urania was on the slate last time we talked too. And I was like, it's Jose Urania. Just got to go against him.
Yep, that's
that
right.
Proved to be the wrong move. Washington sucked that night, and it was Washington. And while I look at this slate, and I see Arizona gets Urania, great spot. They're getting basically the same ownership as the Dodgers. Give me the Dodgers. While I do think that the Dodgers ownership will rise, not to the level it should. They're by far the best team on the slate. I love when teams play funky lineups like this, because people get off them a little bit. I'm more on them because of that.
Yeah, it's interesting. So I just as Brian points out, JD Martinez out as well. So this will update prior to lock. We did this right after we get the Dodgers lineup, so it hasn't updated yet for the new Dodgers lineup. But I anticipate that it's obviously going to be different players, but we're still going to get a ton of Dodgers after we update for the new Dodgers lineup. All right, let's check out FanDuel as well. As we're getting to stacks, and I imagine a big talking point for us is going to be the Dodgers, Belman. So I want to ask, do you have concerns? Brian says that he would expect Freddie Freeman to get subbed out early as well. Does that scare you? Are you at all thinking about fading Freddie Freeman with concerns that maybe they're not going to give him more than a few innings out there?
Potential. I was thinking about when they first announced. Roberts had said before the game that the only guys that were going to play in the both games of the doubleheader were Freeman and Outman. They
Okay.
actually ended up putting in a couple more. They switched positions, like Muncy's DHing. I think a couple. I'm not sure if there's anyone else. Oh, yeah, I don't know if there's anyone else that was in there during the day game. Actually, I can't put it all together right on the top of my head. It does concern me a little bit, but by no means am I like trying to fade him or anything like that.
I guess this is one more reason to play on
Uh,
FanDuel is if you don't want to deal with the Dodgers, they're not on the FanDuel site. Sorry, go ahead.
just one more point. I was going to say that is a good kind of tag along to what I had said before. Like, yeah, people don't want to play the bottom of lineups because, probably going to get one less at bat. A chance they get more at bats if guys like Freeman are pulled, like, and especially if they score a ton of runs, the guys at the bottom of the lineup aren't going to get pulled. So there's hidden upside in there. Like, doesn't happen often, but you need outlier results to win GPPs anyways.
Yeah, it's a really good point. It's going to go under-owned relative to the upside there. People are just going to play the top of the order. And as you said, maybe there's more risk with the top of the order that they're going to get pulled. So yeah, it's that's an interesting point. On FanDuel.
Unless Freeman, sorry, just one more point. Unless he has like a game started streak or something, not sure why they would put him out there and then pull him. Like, I just don't like,
Yeah.
they don't really do that in baseball because you use up the guy off the bench. Like, what if the guy gets hurt? You know what I mean? Like that, they just don't usually do that.
Yeah, that's a good point. You don't see that often where like they go in with the plan. Like it'll happen if the Dodgers put up 10 runs in the first 3 innings. Like,
Sure.
hopefully by that point Freeman's already got a home run or put up some
Exactly.
fantasy points. So maybe not the hugest concern. Looks like my Twins are the chalk on FanDuel. So we have Gossman at the top, 85% Gossman, but then we've got Julian, Kirilloff, Polanco, Farmer. We got all of my Twins making it to the top of the ownership on FanDuel. They look like the chalk over there. Any surprises for you looking at the FanDuel exposure we're getting here?
Not really. I mean, it's a completely different slate hitting wise.
Yeah.
Minnesota's getting some love on the DK side also. They've been really cheap all year. They have power. I get it. I wouldn't want to play them if I were playing on FanDuel just because the ownership's there and like they're not bad, but they're not like an elite offense by any means. I don't like playing them when they're chalky. Let's look and see where our tools have them on FanDuel. I'm sure they're going to be over them in Arizona, I would imagine. Yeah, I mean, they're not like, I wouldn't worry about the ownership. Like, they're 10% owned. They have a 7% chance to be in the top stack. The
Sure.
only really ownership like concerns I would have are Arizona, but like they don't stand out to me in any way. Like, I don't really get why they're getting more love than like Tampa or Miami or any
Right.
of these other teams that are priced similarly that are in similar spots.
Yep. All right. Good call out there. All right. Let's get back. Let's talk about some bats, and we'll go back to DraftKings to talk about some of the top stacks on the board. And it all starts with the Dodgers. So I think that's where we should start talking about the top stacks on the board. The Dodgers, and I'm going to refresh here, but they have we had some really nice positive leverage on the Dodgers. Of course, lots going to change based on we got an unexpected lineup here, but we have the Dodgers coming in at 17.5% projected ownership, 25.8% chance of being the top stack. What are you doing with the Dodgers here? Are you just playing the Dodgers here because we have the positive leverage? Are you trying to get different by playing some other bats? What are you thinking with the Dodgers here, Belman?
I'm playing the Dodgers as we talked about. Like the back half of the lineup's not going to get much love. Feltner's not very good. The Rockies bullpen stinks. Like I just really like these spots where people are more hesitant to get on them because their lineup stinks. And it's not very good on paper, but I don't care about like how good they would be over a 162 game season. I care about them today against Feltner and Coors. And
Right.
like, while they will get love, they won't get as much as they should. I mean, even our tools have said that all day. They stand out like a sore thumb, excuse me. It looks just like how Atlanta did when they were there. They have 4 times as like the chance of being the top stack than any other team. They're first in ownership, but like they're getting under 20% combined. Most of that's coming to like the top guys. Like I said, the bottom guys aren't going to be owned. I mean, what's not to like about the Dodgers tonight? As I mentioned earlier, there are a lot of like crappy pitching options. So there are offenses in good spots, but you also like have to navigate through the what teams care, like what teams are,
Yeah.
putting out their best lineups, etc. Not really stuff you can like quantify, but it's out there. Like you have to think about it at least.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting slate with getting into September, just with the all the different considerations for teams changing as we get this late in the year and what are the motivations for the different teams,
Right.
definitely becomes a little bit more interesting. So do you think you're going to have a single lineup tonight of your 6 that doesn't have at least one Dodgers bat in it?
Yeah, I
Are you
will.
okay? Are you? I mean, this is high stakes. Are you full stacking, like doing 5-3-4-4 kind of
Yeah.
stuff, or do you do okay?
Yes.
So you're gonna have stacks that just don't have the Dodgers in it. Okay, that makes sense.
Right. Um, I will have the Dodgers in. I'm looking right now because I was just finishing. I have the Dodgers in most of my lineups, but I'm not really using many like one-offs today. I'm stacking like
Yeah,
I'm using a lot of Tampa small stacks because they're really cheap with upside. Like the top 2 hitters in Tampa's lineup, we can just talk about them right now.
sure.
Jonathan Aranda and Junior Caminero. Caminero is like one of the top prospects in baseball. I'm not using him because of that, but I haven't heard his name mentioned once. He's sitting second. He's 2,900 with third and short eligibility. Like if I had to pick one, like he's a top value hitter on the slate in my mind. He's dual eligibility at 2 like weakish positions, 9 at bats, good ballpark. Like Tanner Houck is fine, but he's not a guy like I'm afraid to go against by any means. So they're a team that I like pairing with. They're not getting love at all. Like, yeah, they're coming in a little bit over-owned in our tools, but it's under 5%. I'm not overly worried about that. You can't like just only use teams that are coming in quote unquote leveraged because there's the high chance that Tampa comes in less than 4% owned. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we've got Caminero coming in at we were projecting him for 5% ownership, and as you said, yeah, it's 2-hole 2,900 third base and shortstop. I'm surprised to see that little ownership going to Caminero. My first run, I'm getting a little bit more of Caminero, so glad to see that I'm on the same page as you, and really just looking across the entire lineup for Tampa. We have Josh Lowe. Is it Lowe or Lau? I always forget which one's
Josh
Lowe.
Lowe.
Josh Lowe is projected for 11% ownership. We've got Aranda at 9% ownership, and nobody else really getting anything. Like 5% is the next most of anybody else on Tampa. So just not getting a ton of ownership here. They definitely look pretty good. And looking at the top stacks tool, where do we have Tampa? I think I might have FanDuel pulled up. So let me pull up DraftKings. We've got Tampa projected for just 5% ownership, 9% chance of being a top 2, or sorry, the top value stack, and then a 4% chance of being the top stack overall. So yeah, looks like a pretty interesting spot here for Tampa. All right, let's talk about the one other chalk spot here, which is Arizona. I know you mentioned them a little bit early, but tell me how you're feeling about Arizona here at 14% projected ownership on the stack on DraftKings.
I mean, like they look really good because I think Urania stinks, but the weather stinks there for hitting. They're way over-owned. Like they're just way over-owned. I mean, the Dodgers have a higher value percentage than they do, and their ownership is comparable. It should not be comparable. They're the only team that I'd worry about ownership with. I am playing them a little bit. Like because I'm playing a team like Toronto, I feel like I can eat a little bit of that Arizona ownership with those Toronto guys. If Toronto has a good night, like Arizona's still the second top stack on the board, so they're still in a good spot. It's just like Minnesota on FanDuel. There isn't really much separating them between the other teams, and they're getting all the ownership. So you basically name any other team on the slate outside of the Dodgers and Arizona, and you can play them without ownership concerns. And the Dodgers are a classic case of what you would like to talk about, a chalky team that's underowned. Arizona is like the only team that I think if you're playing like one lineup in a single entry or whatever, you probably should avoid.
Yep. All right. Good analysis there. So we just got a question about the late slate. So I'm pulling up my late slate so I can see who we're dealing with here on the late slate. So our Apple guy, Chris Williams, says his rare day for me. Only doing single entry tonight, saving my energy for NFL on Thursday. For the DraftKings late slate, may I ask for top 2 favorite pitchers and top 2 favorite offenses? And he adds, hit the like button, people, and atone. I agree. Yeah, please atone for your sins, as Laffy would say. Hit that like button for us. Really does help us out quite a bit. So we'd appreciate you guys hitting the like button. I never asked while I'm in the middle of shows and really should. So please hit that like button for us. All right. So looking at the late slate, Belman, I'm going to sort by ownership here. We've got Christian Javier with the most ownership here at 41%. We've got Reed Detmers at 39%, George Kirby 36%. Cody Bradford, it's very evenly spread out here. Cody Bradford at 35%, Seth Lugo 34%, Kyle Harrison 17%. Does anybody stand out to you as the two pitchers that you'd like to play on this night slate if you were playing a single entry team?
I don't really see how you can play Bradford, given that like he's only projected to be the opener. So no to him. Harrison, watered down San Diego lineup, no Machado, they're out of the playoffs. They've stacked it up with righties. And on the main slate, like I have concerns about pitch count. I have concerns about the matchup. Like on this slate, you're dealing with that with everyone. So you don't have a Kevin Gausman here or even a Michael King at 6K.
Yeah.
They all these pitchers look similar. Harrison's not getting the ownership. So give me Harrison here as like my one favorite guy, and then pick a hat for the other. Pick out of a hat.
Yeah, looking at the top pitchers tool, Harrison does stand out. 17% projected ownership, 31% chance of being a top 2 pitcher, and 28% chance of being a top 2 value pitcher. So I think Harrison really does stand out in the tools. After Harrison, I think you could obviously go to George Kirby would be maybe somebody to consider there. It'd be either Lugo actually looks the next best in the tools, I would say. We've got some positive leverage there for Lugo coming in at 34% ownership, 37% chance of being optimal. So maybe it'd be Harrison and Lugo or Harrison and Kirby is probably the answer. And then as far as top stacks go on the night slate, we have Texas coming in at 22% ownership with a 26% chance of being the top stack. They kind of stand out to me as maybe the first place that I would think about going. Of course, again, they are going to get the most ownership of any team on the night slate as well. What do you think? Do you eat the chalk there with Texas, given that we have a little bit of positive leverage, or is there another spot you prefer to go to on the night slate, Belman?
I think if I play the night slate right now, I would be eating the chalk with Texas and pairing them with Houston. So like kind of an example of what I talked about the early slate, or the main slate with Arizona and Toronto. Houston's the lowest owned team on the slate. I don't think that should be the case. Kirby's good, but all these offenses are in similar spots. They're getting no love because they're most expensive. They're the most expensive, excuse me. You can make that work on slates like this. Like there's cheap guys throughout that you can make happen. And Houston would just be the team that I would use with Texas because Texas stands out as the top team on the board.
Okay. So we're going to Texas as our top stack, maybe Houston as a secondary stack, a recommendation, and then we're going Kyle Harrison and Seth Lugo if you can make it work is what I would say there. Or if you can fit in George Kirby instead of Seth Lugo, certainly that's an option as well. So there you go. Hopefully you can make it work with those suggestions, Chris Williams, and appreciate you as always. Olrat says, who would replace Freeman if he gets taken out? Do you have any thought there, Belman, who might come in for Freeman from the Dodgers? Let me pull up.
No, I feel like everyone played in the first game. Like that's why they're like, if that's the case, also if everyone played in the first game, there's like, I find it unlikely they're going to pull Freeman.
Yeah, it does seem like I still want to answer the question. So let me take a look at who might come in for Freeman. Who is even the next first baseman? Who else plays first base for the Dodgers? Let me look. 1 second. Is Muncy starting?
Yeah, he is. He's the DH.
Okay. All right, let's see.
I know on their bench tonight is Hayward, Mookie, JD Martinez, Rojas. Like none of those guys are coming. Austin Barnes, that's 5. None of them are coming in for Freeman or for anyone for that matters.
So would it be, I mean, I know Muncy has played first base, so maybe he would pivot to play first base. I don't have a great answer here. I guess is what it boils down to. I don't really know who would be likely to come in for Freeman. We don't really think that anybody is going to come in and replace Freeman. So unfortunately, Olred, I don't think we have a great answer for you. And to be honest, I wouldn't play anybody off the bench anyway. Like this is a large slate. You're not playing any of those guys anywhere. Brian says they could move Smith over and sub Barnes for Smith at catcher. That's a good point.
Barnes played today though at catcher. No.
Yeah.
Like guys do not play back-to-back double headers at catcher like ever. Like, so they're not going to bring Barnes off the bench. Like at least plan to do that. There's not, no.
Jordan Klein says Mookie can play anywhere. I've never seen, has Mookie played first base?
No, but he plays like second and short. So he can play anywhere. I mean, Mookie can't play anywhere. I think all the guys on their bench tonight are guys that played today, which makes to me like the chances of Freeman getting pulled very unlikely. Like, yeah, in a blowout, they'll put like Rojas at first because like it's Freddie Freeman. But like other than that, I think he's playing the whole game.
All right. So we're just not concerning ourselves with it. But appreciate you, Olrat. Thanks for the question. But I think the best answer is probably nobody's coming in for Freeman unless it's a blowout. All right.
Yeah.
Let's. So I mean, we talked about there's really only two chalk teams on the main slate for DraftKings. Those being the Cardinals and the Dodgers being a bit chalky, and then there's a huge drop off in projected ownership for the next slate. Next is Colorado at just 6% projected ownership. They're facing Bobby Miller, not the best matchup in the world for Colorado. Let's just open it up to rather than just talking about specifically about Colorado because they don't look great in the tools. They look like a little bit of negative leverage on Colorado. Let me ask you, outside of the two chalky teams, the Dodgers and the Diamondbacks, who else do you like on this slate?
I like Toronto for the reasons I talked about earlier. It's not like they're in a great spot on paper against King, but King is still a relative unknown. They're not getting any ownership, and you've got the leverage against King. So Toronto stands out to me as a team that I would be wanting to get over the field on if I were playing 150. I'm playing a little bit of them and the lineups I made in the high stakes. So certainly like them in 150. Talked about Tampa. Our top stack tool is, Matt on them. Like they're still top like 10th overall, 11th in our top stack tool. The ownership's like pretty much right in line with that. But I think the value is real there all throughout the lineup with speed and power upside. Like, yes, please there. Texas looks good here. They're coming in a little bit under-owned. They're really expensive. So, you have to make some concessions to get the good guys you want. Like King helps at 6K, but if you play Gaussman with King, you will need like a cheaper secondary stack if you want to play Semien, Seager, etc. So I like Texas. Atlanta is a team that always stands out. I mean, Steele is good. It just tells you how good Atlanta is. They're fourth in our tools today, obviously coming in under-owned, only a 0.4% chance to be in the top value stack, which makes sense. They shouldn't be cheap. So, as you kind of alluded to before you asked me what my thoughts were, if you're not playing LA or Arizona, like the case to play any other team is ownership, which is basically always in play in MLB DFS.
Let's touch briefly on this Mets game because it sounds like they're already starting. Let's talk about do you think that
I saw an update on it?
Okay.
I saw an update on it. So yeah, sorry to talk over you, but they were supposed to be not bad weather problems tonight. However, I've read that the field is really, really bad. So it's risky because apparently it's been raining there all day. So I wasn't planning on like fading that game because of it. I just happened to not get any in my lineups. And I don't think that fading that game is crazy at all. Nothing really stands out there. And we probably won't know before it locks. So it's risky for sure.
I think I'm fading the game. I think like if it did stand out as a great play, then maybe I would play from that game. But since it already doesn't look like the best spot in the world, I'm just going to fade it, not take the risk. And hopefully, and I'm going to hope that 10% of the field plays somebody from that game and I'm getting a leg up. So that I think is going to be my approach to the Mets game. But it's really hard to say that they're late starting. They're hoping to get the field under control. But the latest, it looks like the field doesn't look great and they're already late starting. So I think there is a real chance that the game doesn't end up playing. But it's really hard for us to know what they're trying to do with the fields, the crew there in New York. So we're just guessing. But regardless of what happens, I'm just going to fade the game because I don't think it's a necessary spot to play anywhere anyway. So might as well fade it and hope things go my way. I love your call out on Toronto. That makes a ton of sense to me to go like just a natural leverage spot when a lot of the field is going to King. You're getting that leverage on every King lineup. And we've got Toronto coming in at just 1.5% projected ownership, 2.2% chance of being the top stack, and 1.8% chance of being the top value stack. So they already look good in the top stacks tool. On top of that, you get leverage going against King. So I think it makes a lot of sense. And they're a lineup that like you talk about what happens when a team goes off. Toronto is the kind of lineup.
Say it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Exactly. No, when Toronto is the top stack, when they are tonight, they're hitting home runs. Like it's just what they do. They're not going to be the top stack often, but you look up and down their lineup, George Springer, Bo Bichette, Vlad, Belt, like all these guys have power. And that's what you need to win tournaments. So yeah, I took the words right out of your mouth. That's exactly what I was thinking.
All right, perfect. Josh Gillum says Cardinals, Arizona. I don't know if he's responding to, I might have called Arizona the Cardinals. I don't know what comment he's responding to, but yeah, Arizona is the second chalky stack. I probably called them the Cardinals because I'm in NFL mode. But yes, it is Arizona, the other stack. Emax says Freeman has played in 154 of 155 games. So he doesn't really have that like has to start kind of streak going on.
Oh,
Emax
no.
thinks Kike or Hayward would play first and someone would take over for them if it isn't Muncy. So that's his weighing in there.
Like, here's my counterpoint to that, though. Why would they not just start that guy?
Right. Is there any benefit to playing all except for one game on like playing 161 of 162 for Freeman? I don't know. Maybe there's contract incentives that I'm not aware of, something like that. But yeah, I don't think that I think they're probably just playing Freeman and, they'll take him out if they need to in a blowout kind of situation, but probably just Freeman is going to be the guy. All right. Any other stacks that you wanted to call out here?
No, I'm just looking really quick to see if Freeman No, he played first this afternoon, so he's playing first in both games. No, not really. I talked about Tampa. Like, I really like the top of their lineup. It's not getting ownership, and they're cheap. Houck is actually getting some ownership. He's the 5th highest owned pitcher on the slate, outside of, Gausman, King. He's the 4th highest owned on the slate, outside of the 3 obvious guys. Ober against the Twins, and then Gausman and King in that same game. He's getting the most ownership. Won't be surprised at all if his and Ober's ownership are more in line. Like, I don't think Ober is going to get much love at all, to be quite honest. Like, I get the matchup. I just think Gausman and King are going to get the majority of the ownership. And as I was saying, I don't think it'll be shocking to me at all if Houck and Ober are similarly owned.
Interesting. Okay. According to Mel Gibson's burner, Freeman is just addicted to playing baseball. Maybe that's why he started. We didn't even think about the possibility that he's just addicted to playing baseball. That's a good point there. Austin Smith says FanDuel stacks, which apparently Jordan has already put up on the screen for him. Good guy, Jordan Klein. We're going to take a look at FanDuel stacks. Is anything looking really different for you on FanDuel, Belman? Are there any stacks that jump out as great leverage plays on FanDuel? Because you can't play the Dodgers on FanDuel, so it's a little bit of a different equation. We've got the Diamondbacks as the highest owned stack, also as the top stack on the board. What do you think is different for you on FanDuel?
It's different because you don't have the Dodgers. Arizona is more expensive on FanDuel, so puts them. They're still getting the most ownership. They're still like over-owned, so it's a team I'd probably avoid. It's similar to DK, and just that like every team is coming in like about as owned as they should, except for Atlanta's or Arizona's getting too much love. Atlanta's not getting enough love. Outside of that, it's like all in line with what it should be.
Yeah, even like Toronto, you don't have the leverage on the Michael King ownership because he's not getting ownership. They still look like they, maybe a little bit underowned. So some of these spots, like you can kind of, find little like micro edges, spots where teams are a little bit underowned. So Toronto, I think, looks pretty good again on FanDuel, looking like they're going to be a little bit underowned. Boston against Eflin also looks good. So playing, in some of the tougher matchups, maybe playing some of these stacks look pretty good here.
Oakland doesn't look bad.
Where's Oakland? Oh, towards the bottom. So we got Oakland at sub 1% ownership, 3% chance being the top value, 2% chance being the top stack. Yeah, that's a good call out for Oakland.
They don't look good, but they don't look bad.
Yeah, no, I mean they've got some nice positive leverage. So I hear what you're saying. I think they look all right there.
It's always tough though, like going back to what I said earlier in the show when you talk about like these like micro leverage points, because I agree with you and I'm always trying to find them, but like these are just ownership projections, right? That's all we can go off of. But like me playing them or you playing them will change the ownership. You know what I mean? So it's like always hard with these micro edges. Like I think you have to look into them, but it's difficult.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like it's when it is like, 0.5% is the difference between the ownership. And it's like, okay, well, the ownership projections are not like 100% accurate. Nobody is like, you can't really predict exactly what people are going to do. You can only make your best guess. So that is a good point with the micro edges. Like you're really, I don't know. You want to spread it out. Pick your favorite team if there is just a bunch of teams that look pretty similar, but it is hard to really differentiate when it's like 0.5% here or there.
I was listening to a pod last night. Jordan Cooper had Nerdy Tenor on the pod.
Yeah.
Did you hear that? Okay.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it was just really interesting to hear like a player who plays obviously different from me, but who's very successful.
Yeah.
One thing that stood out to me, he was talking about, this was kind of earlier in the pod. Can't remember the exact like context in which he was talking about it, but he was talking about like a 20-man tournament and playing a pirate stack. And it's like, like if no one else plays the Pirates, like it's a great lineup in that tournament. But if one other person does, it's not. And like you just at the end of the day don't know exactly what other people are going to do.
I think anytime Nerdy Tenor's on a podcast, like I'm immediately interested. Yeah, because he also like he's got like machine learning as part of his process. So I'm always intrigued to see like, is he doing anything different than the rest of us because his computer is learning for him. And of course we've got the tools here at Stochastic that have incorporated a lot of the same things at this point. So maybe we're catching up.
And it's like the type of thing in DFS, like if you're not willing to learn more or admit that like people are smarter than you, you're failing. Like you will not get better. And you will not succeed, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You need to be always adjusting the way you play. I've made that mistake. Like I've gotten content at times and
for sure.
I don't want to change what I'm doing because it's been working, but you got to always be, thinking about adjusting your process to try and keep up because the field is changing all the time. So we kind of need to be as well. Little aside here. So we should make our home run picks back, but little aside, you can get anything at OddsShopper for 70% off right now. If you use promo code Let's Go or use the link in the description of this video. We've got tons of different offerings at OddsShopper. So if you're into either sports betting or playing like the pick'em sites, we have a lot of different offerings that you can find at OddsShopper using promo code Let's Go to get 70% off, or you can find the link in the description of this video. So just wanted to tell you guys, if you haven't checked out OddsShopper and you're interested in sports betting, highly recommend checking it out. Uses a market-based approach to find the best bets available at any given time during the day. But we're getting to the end of the show here, Belman, so I do want to make our home run picks. Do you have a home run pick? Nobody in Coors Field, so that's our one rule. Nobody in Coors Field. Who do you think's hitting a home run tonight outside of Coors Field?
I'm going completely outside the box. I've talked about him all show. Give me Junior Caminero to hit his first home run tonight.
Oh, wow. Look at you. Sticking with the guys that you were talking about. Good for you. Good for you.
Thank
you.
All
right, let me see what I can find here. Using my process, I'm just running through, pretty advanced process that I've got going on here. I'm going to go with, I'm going to make sure nobody in chat has already said, I'm going to go with Corbin Carroll with a 29% chance of hitting a home run tonight against your guy, Jose Urena, or the guy you like to face, Jose Urena. So I'm going to go with Corbin Carroll as my home run pick tonight. All right, Belman, that's going to do it. We have hit lock. Actually, lock might be, maybe lock is in 2 minutes from now. I don't know. I think it's a little bit different tonight. But do you have any final words for the people?
No, lock is at 7:07. It's surprising to me that Carroll's on top of there. Urena stinks, but he's not even like a big home run hitter. So kind of tells you all you need to know about Urena.
The Viking Nomad, not being a homer at all, says Jorge Polanco dong is coming. What else we got here? I thought I did see somebody mention Corbin Carroll earlier, but I don't see it in the home run calls. We got Arcathel's back says Josh Jung is going to hit a home run. We got Sotex's late slate home run Kyle Tucker. Ken Roddy says Jordan Alvarez. Aaron Hines says Vaughn. Chris Williams says Semien going to hit a home run. So a lot of different options here for home rome picks. But somebody just said Matt Chapman as well, throwing him out there. Rob P says Chapman. So plenty of players who could hit home runs tonight. But that is going to do it for this show, guys. If you have not already hit that like button, please do hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Hit that notification button so you can get alerts when our shows go live. Good luck tonight.